Good evening, Council. For the record, I'm Ewan Wong, the Admin Services Administrator for the city. And as of last Thursday, I emailed Council a copy of the final report for the library budget review. We received the report from the consultant on March 30th, and then they suggest us to get some comments back or inform KCLS and their team about their observations and get some explanation back. So because of the time constraints, we want to bring this to council as soon as possible, and that's why it's in front of you today. The PowerPoint will basically follow the same outline as I put in the cover memo, transmittal memo last week. So we'll just go through that quickly and see if council has any questions. A little bit background. When the city was going through the budget, the library design process, during the process there were a few comments and questions received from the public. Basically, I'm paraphrasing those questions and comments, but they are really in 3 or 4 line of thoughts. One is that the King County library systems in e-cost appears much higher than state in e-guidelines and fee schedule. The second is that KCLS preliminary budget appears to include many additional services that should have been included as part of basic service, and that's also related to A&E costs, and as we go into more detail, you will understand why the comment's from. And the third comment is that KCLS preliminary budget under owner cost section includes items seemed unnecessary or inflated for no obvious reasons. And then lastly, the community suggests that the city conduct an independent audit and review, and to ascertain the budget is appropriate. So the city did issue an RFP in July of 2013, and we received 3 responses, but one respondent subsequently withdrew the proposal, and the city selected the Robinson Company based on their extensive relevant experience. Their experience including past experience in cost estimating for library projects. That's not what they currently do, but in the past they have done that. And the contract with the Robinson Company is not to exceed $18,500. And initially the report is supposed to be complete in 4 months. We completed contract negotiation, and they were to start work in October 1 and finish at the end of February 28th. 2014, but in the end we allowed them extend their contract for 1 more month to complete a review of the most current construction cost estimates. And so I also want to just briefly highlight what we are asking them to review. We asked them to take a look at our construction base price. This is just for illustration purpose under Liberty Park Library. That is a base construction contract of $6.229 million. The reason I'm not asking them to review other line item is the contingency. The city will have total control over what change order we approve or not approve. And also sales tax really is not something that we have discretion. And as in some other categories, any really line item budget, if it's not used, as you can see that if they pay out the invoice, they will invoice the city, and city needs to approve before we'll pay them back. So any budget, if it's not used, it's not going to be just automatically paid to them.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Could you repeat that again? You said the city has control over approving the
Change orders?
change orders?
We have a project manager working with them on a weekly basis during construction process that we will jointly approve change orders. And some of the change orders may not be avoidable, and just like any contract. So, but the city will have full view of change orders.
Thank you.
And similarly, we asked them to review the A&E cost, and specifically, the A&E cost is identified in King County's project budget under account number 60610 and category number 02910 and through 02930. And that's the group of accounts that they identify as A&E costs, and also correspond to the A&E contract we entered.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can you repeat those?
The numbers?
Yeah.
It's on, actually in your report, as Exhibit A.
Okay.
These are highlighted there.
Okay.
And also in your PowerPoint, you can see, I don't know if it's readable or not, but really it's the yellow
Right on this one here?
highlighted lines.
Okay, and that
It's
was-
right here.
The number's
It's out-
right there.
It's right, yellow highlighted red.
And it's all this here.
Okay.
Dropbox.
So, I'm using Liberty Park as an example, but it's consistent with both libraries. And as I mentioned earlier, most other line items under owner cost are typical fees that are actually required by the city. For example, if you look at the line item, the survey, the traffic study, permit fees, and including the 1% for the arts are city required costs. They have to include them in the budget, or city required elements. As I said, the change orders and expense, actually the approval process is that our project manager work with them and we approve before we make payments. And generally, budgeted line item is not, if it's not needed, it will not be spent. So that's the reason we basically limited the review to those sections. And so what the consultant did, their review process, they looked at construction documentation phase, drawing and specs. We are currently 75% to 100% construction drawing phase with both projects. I think the Liberty Park is a little bit ahead of the Highlands at this time, but they both are 75% to 100% construction drawing phase. So we have pretty current, pretty complete information to base our estimate on. And with that set of documentation, the consultant reviewed detailed construction cost estimates. They reviewed the quantities. They actually spot check quantities to make sure they're within reasonable range. And then they reviewed in detail the unit pricing, general conditions, and markups by general contractors. Just make sure the assumptions are all in line. And then in the A&E cost section, they reviewed the architect's contract, both firms' contract, and they reviewed the amendments to those initial contracts. They compared the basic fees and services in the A&E agreement or contracts, compared their fee against the state's fee schedule, both in base services and fees, as well as analyze the additional services. So with that background, what they observe, and it's all in their written report that we emailed out last Thursday. On Liberty Park side, they believe that the A&E team is a very well-known and highly respected team. And they didn't put it in writing, but they believe there's a premium we're paying to hire such an elite team. The plans delivered by the team are very thorough and meet and exceed the documentation expected at this level of design. And cost estimate is very detailed and very thorough and complete. The cost estimator is also very reputable and very well qualified cost estimator. But overall, they feel that A&E fees are higher than they think will be necessary by $159,000. At the same time, they believe that the construction cost estimate at this time is 282,000 lower than they feel is necessary.
The question?
Yes.
Can you explain that last point?
Okay?
Construction cost estimate is 282,000 lower than the consultant feels necessary, so they think the construction cost estimate should be higher.
Correct. So basically, they think that when we go out to bid, when the bid is open, they think the cost will be higher than currently the architect's cost estimator is believing will be. So, but the 282,000 is less than 3%, and their estimate errors and so forth, so I think it's just within range.
Okay, thank you.
So here's more, I actually summarized or condensed the table. In the report, you will have a more complete table in terms of what Miller Hall's initial proposed budget versus those items that Robinson Company think are different and wherever there's a variance. So I did not pick up the lines that there's no variance and so forth. So I'm just trying to highlight the differences. So as you can see that the bottom line level, they think their cost estimate for A&E services is about 159,000 below what Miller Hall actually think is necessary. And the three largest areas, the biggest variance is in the enhanced construction administration service, and then the second largest item is in interior design, and then there are some other line item differences as well. And when we sent Robinson Company's report to King County Library System for their team to review, so King County Library System sent them to their A&E teams for review. The first question the A&E team asked is, so how did the Robinson Company come up with their estimates? So we can see the breakdown of time and unit price, then we can counter and explain why. Unfortunately, we asked the Robinson Company a couple of times to see if they have those details, and his explanation is he really did not approach A&E cost review from that angle. He more looked at based on the type of project, complexity of project, and he based his dollar amount is just he think is what it take from his experience. So it's somewhat subjective, and unfortunately, because we don't have the detail, it's harder for the A&E teams to counter and say this is the reason, we have more time, or whatever reason that is. But in three specific areas, we did get specific comments. One is the enhanced construction administration, and Miller Hall believed very strongly that an enhanced construction administration on site, so more time on site, will help the owner, which is us and King County Library System, to prevent or avoid, or to minimize or avoid change orders. And so they think that's an investment, and they also think that the clients, today's clients, actually expect them to do more of those work than what is allowed in the base service level. And we actually heard that from THA as well, so the other architect team, that they really think the base construction management amount is not sufficient. So anyway, Miller Hall feels strongly about the enhanced construction administration, and their track record is pretty good, so we'll need to see how they actually end up with this project. Interior design is another area. Because Miller Hall has a lot of experience working with King County Library System, so they say they know exactly what the work process will be when we talk about interior design. They don't just lay out space. They actually need to inventory the whole library material that will go into the library, and they will work with staff to lay out all the library material where they will go. And it also includes working with Arts Commission to design how to bring the 1% for the arts project into the design. So they know that's typically will be expected of them, and that's their experience working with King County Library System. So when they put together their proposal, they included that. And in terms of sprinkler system, because we have an existing system, and they are changing the design to have exposed ceilings, so where the sprinkler heads located, they will need to bring that into their design, so it will be in proper locations. So those are the things that's not as typical, and so they provide those general explanations of why they think it will be higher. But again, because we don't really have the basis of Robinson Company's breakdown, it's hard for them to respond to why the variances are. Let's see. So the next group of review is in the construction costs. And with construction cost estimate, that's really is the Robinson Company's primary work focus. They are the construction estimator, and they actually have a very good database they build themselves, and they really feel that their information is accurate. So basically, they went through, they pretty much using the quantities provided by the estimator of the A&E team, but did spot check, and then use their own unit pricing to come up with their estimate of the construction cost. As you can see, the variance, some line items they believe should be higher, some line items they believe should be lower, but in the end, the combined total difference in all the construction line item is 70,218 is in this line. The 70,218 is the total difference, combined difference of all these variances. And then really their bigger difference are in the general conditions. As mentioned earlier, they really looked at general conditions and contractors markup and so forth. That really created much larger variance in the end. And so their ending variance, they believe that the total cost overall is $282,000 lower than it necessary, than will end up to be. Now, again, the $282,000 is less than 3% difference of the total construction budget, and it is within the range of estimating error, and also is within the project contingency. So at this time, the project is, I think, at 100% construction drawing phase. So they're planning to go out to bid probably in May, June time. I think they expect building permit in May and probably bid in June. So we're very, very close to the competitive bid process. That will eventually determine how much the construction budget will be. Again, because of the contingency we have available, we feel pretty comfortable. This project looks in good shape at this time. Any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, given that there is, and I know that the difference, the variance is less than 3%, so it's within the, the project guides and everything. But we still, if we, when we're taking a look at the bid as it comes back, how much weight are we putting into the consultant's recommendation of what they think, it's going to take to do this project properly?
The construction's estimate is just engineer's estimate. A lot of our street project will have an engineer's estimate, but when you go out to bid, whatever the bid price is, what's going to end up with. Is that the
Yeah.
question?
I'd just add, I think the council's had lots of experience in our own public works project where our engineer's estimate is often significantly different from the market at the time. We try our best to estimate, just as both of these firms have, but the ultimate test will be when we get the bids back. And so from a construction basis, I think we'll wait to see that. If it was a a huge difference, and both of them were saying, hey, it looks like we're going to be under, I think we would be a little more concerned right now. We're close enough to when we actually can go to bid that I think it will be worth it for us to go out to bid, let's see what we get, and then we'll have to decide whether, if there is a significant difference, if it's this $282,000, and that is what it comes in at, we've got enough in the budget already to cover that. I think we're close enough now with the construction side of things that I think we'll wait and see. I just would add on the other side, on the A&E fees, I've summarized this way. Robinson has significant experience, as Ewan said, mostly on the construction side of things. They have some strong feelings about how things ought to be estimated on the architectural side. But when we asked them for specifics, they didn't have those. What we did get from KCLS was the specific reasons why they felt like their numbers were different from Robinson's. And so from that standpoint, staff's got the architect who is on site and working the project giving us very good reasons why they feel like their estimates work. And so from that standpoint, we're comfortable with the estimates that we currently have with Miller Hall.
Good. And my concern is just to make sure that, we're going to get a quality project, that, especially as I look at the line here for Matt Foundation and Auger Cast Piles, and from Miller Hall to Robinson Group, you got a $35,000 difference there in the estimate of what that's going to take place, which is about a good 25%, of the total estimate.
Again, there are lines that Robinson Company think is too high as well. So when we get the bid in, all of those will be washed out. So whatever bid we receive, really in the end, will determine the final cost.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, but Terry,
Do you know, especially I was thinking on the sprinklers, are any of these sections design bid, or are they going to be all designed by Miller Hall and then?
So the contract actually, the city was part of the selection team on both of the architect firms. And Miller Hall was selected, and they have a proposed list of subcontractor in the proposal. So we knew who they're going to use. It's a lump sum contract, and so there is a expectation that they will earn that money.
Okay, so, because sometimes, Miller Hall would do the actual design for the sprinkler systems rather than a design bid where the contractor's actually designing it and installing it. And so, do you know how?
I think the contractor, that's what the Robinson Company is saying. The contractor who install or who fix the sprinkler system will do the design.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
Miller Hall doesn't need to. But
Right.
Miller Hall actually asked for a subcontractor a sub-design contractor to look at the system.
Okay.
Because the placement of the head is not going to be exposed.
Right.
And they think it's important for us to know exactly where to go.
Perfect, okay, thank you.
Another question? So now going to the Highlands side, the team is known, but not as well known as the other team, and also respected A&E team, and they have no problem with their team at all. Their plans, from their opinion, is very thorough and also meet or exceed the expectation. And the cost estimate is detailed, and the cost estimator is a very good one, very reputable one locally, and it's very thorough and complete. And in their review of the A&E fee, they feel that A&E fee is higher than they expected by $28,000. And the construction cost estimate in this one is actually substantially lower than they think it's going to end up. So it's $734,000 lower than they feel is necessary to build the library. And again, the A&E cost side, there are some line items that Robinson Company thought they should have put in there, but they didn't have separate itemed out costs at least. And then there are certain items that Robinson Company think is a little bit high. I am combining two line items, which are coordination with developer both developers architect and developers consultant. Combine those two items is $17,000. And Robinson Company thinks that is too high, and that this project is a bit unusual. The way that the city envisioned initially how this project will be combined with private development project as a joint building. And so the expectation is very different, the timeline was very different, and the whole scope was different. And so we think actually that coordination definitely happened, and probably more than what they are identifying. The other thing that Robinson Company identified is that, or questioned, is that why we decide to select a firm from Portland, because by virtue of their not local firm, that it will imply a higher reimbursable travel and costs. And again, because city was part of the selection process, the reason we selected THA is because their particular experience in joint public-private development. And they actually had a project with private mixed use plus a library in their portfolio. And so that was weighted very highly when we selected them. So we know they are out of Portland, but we think because of the experience will be very helpful to our first really public-private development.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And that makes great sense. Just out of curiosity, are there not any other local companies that have that same level of expertise? Were they so exclusive in their expertise that we don't have anyone local? I'm just curious.
So the process, just like how we selected Robinson Company, we issued the RFP, right? To and see who proposed. And it's among those proposed firms, they have the best mixed experience. So
So
we
there
will
were-
not be, we didn't go out and say, okay, do you want to do this project?
Oh, I understand that, yeah, but my guess, what I wanted to know is, was there another pool of local companies that had the similar same expertise? We're just saying that they had the best level of that based on the RFP process.
Not that I'm aware of, I don't know if.
I'm just trying to think, since, think about in this region, we have, Peter's coming up, we have KCLS, who is the owner of most of the libraries in the Metro Seattle area, other than the city of Seattle and Enumclaw, and us. And so, and I'm only aware of, I think, one other joint use project, I think that's in Burien that KCLS did. There might be others, but I think that would be one reason why there wouldn't be a lot of local firms that would have direct experience with a joint public-private partnership with a library. There just haven't been that many in the region.
Let me, I have a question, because, so I understand it. The city puts out, in this case, it was the city
King County
in
Library System
King
put
County
out that.
Library System, put out a request for proposal. They didn't send that just to any firm. That was advertised widely. So any firm in the state of Washington, Oregon, Washington DC,
Yep.
anywhere in the world could have
Could
put in
submit,
for an
yes.
RFP. The people that, if I understand what you said right, is the people that responded to the RFP
I'm on that
and got the
pool.
interviews, whatever, into the selection process, that this architect is the only one that had the private, the combination of the building with a private developer and a library government, and building with a public company. So there could be a whole lot of them, but they didn't bother to put in.
Right, submittal. I'm
submittal.
I'm looking at Peter because he was actually in the selection process, so he knew who actually submitted or responded to the.
And let me just make a clarification. I believe that I heard you say that there were others who did put in an RFP. They did respond to the RFP, but this particular company that was selected had the better expertise in that particular area. There were others as well, though. Am I correct in that?
That's right. I can't rattle off the names of all the firms that were involved,
Not
but we
from
saw
expected.
some other similar type of projects. I do remember that THA had the most substantial of any of the projects of that type. And in the selection process, there were a lot of other criteria involved besides just that specific element. And all of the architectural firms were graded just like a report card with about 20 different categories, and then it was the total of those elements that provided the group with the final discussion points of who to recommend for selection. And THA was as I recall, there were 9 of us, and 8 had them rated number 1. The other factor, I think, that played most heavily into their selection was their wide experience building libraries, not in Washington, but in Oregon for cities and counties. And they had recently, they were in process on the library for the University of Washington at Tacoma. And since this contract was let, they've had additional libraries that they've contracted for in the state of Washington. I'd also like to make a point that as far as the travel expenses and higher than average expenses that we got, I hope that people aren't letting their affection for things from the state of Oregon overcome reason, because if we would have had an architect selected from, say, Spokane, they would have had similar levels of expenses for travel and so forth, so does that help?
So, again, yeah, that's kind of, coordination is really the highest difference, and we really believe the city has much to do with the process. We actually had a number of stop-and-go process through the design phase, delayed substantially of their initial and their schedule. Let's go to construction. I know this is a very busy chart. You probably won't be able to see on screen easily. But if you have the report, it's much easier to see. And anyone wants a copy of this, I will definitely provide that. My key, though, is trying to point you to the 2 variances. Similarly, like what we saw in Liberty Park Library, there's line items up and as well as down, and there's some substantial difference in shoring wall and so forth. So they just have very different unit costs, both in this project as well as in Liberty Park project. And then as a total, the construction piece, so all those line above, has $450,000 in variances. And so they believe the cost will be about $500,000 higher than the engineering estimate at this time. And then they also believe again, the general condition and the markup and so forth are lower than necessary as well. So combined is $734,000 of variance. They think, again, the project engineering estimate at this time is too low. So this is definitely a much more substantial difference
Chair?
than, yes.
I just want to, can I just ask a question before you get off of the slide? Well, I guess it doesn't make any difference. I just wondered if the fact that this is also going to have the private building and defining who's taking care of what, because you're talking about the shoring in the garage, and some of that's going to be shared. Do you think that has...
So this portion of the
issue?
cost is really now, we agree to that the city or the King County Library System will build our half of the garage.
Okay.
And then the private developer will build their half. The only connection will be they need to flow the same floor plan, and the driveway is a joint driveway, so they need to be able to connect seamlessly. But other than that, it will be almost 2 entirely different projects.
Okay, one more question. The timing of this with the timing of the apartment, or the other part of the building, I mean, are they going to be happening at the same time, so you've got contractors that have to work together?
At
Or,
this time, I don't think so. Is the apartment going to be so soon? Because Highlands Library, we are 75% development, construction drawing, and they can go out to bid in July.
Okay.
So it will be very soon, and I just don't know if apartments is going to run.
I'm sure that the developer would like to be working on their project at the same time. They have a further distance to go, obvious, than the library does. But the portion of their building that is represented by the garage entrance, the shared entrance, has been treated separately.
okay,
And in fact, if they aren't able to construct it in a way that matches up on a schedule basis with King County Library System, then it can revert to us, and the money will be in escrow for us to use it to construct
okay.
that.
I could just see that there could be expectations that Robinson might not have fully
Taking into
understood or covered that would add to anticipated costs, so, thank you.
So at this time, if Robinson Company is correct, the $734,000 will pretty much take all our project contingency, and that will make the project budget very, very tight. So again, we believe we'll be going out to bid in July, or at least latest probably August. And at that time, we'll know the construction cost, but there is a chance that, especially with today's construction cost environment and trend, it is possible that this project may need additional resource. And just want to make sure council is aware of that. But at this time, I don't think we're recommending making a change. Just let them move forward and get through the bid process.
Randy?
This is very related, it's not, sorry, very related, not exactly covered by your material though. Can you remind us what we've decided with the existing Highlands Library? Are we considering selling that, or?
Yes, initially, the city was considering trading that parcel with Renton Housing Authority, but they decided that's not the building or site they need.
Okay.
And so, once we move into the new library, that library will become surplus property. It will
Okay.
come back to council to surplus the site before we can go out for seek proposal to purchase.
Okay,
So-
and we didn't include that money from that sale, or did we, already in our budget?
So the project budget did not have land acquisition cost because we thought we were just going to trade land with Renton Housing Authority. And in today's carry forward budget adjustment, we now asking council to advance $450,000.
Okay.
So we can do the land acquisition and pay for the demo cost, get the new project going.
Okay.
And then once we sell the existing library, we can reimburse the city
Okay.
for that.
Okay. Thanks.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Even, I know you're probably heading there, I'm looking at your last bullet there, that with current construction cost trends, it's possible we're going to need additional resources. Do we have some idea of what kind of a percentage of increase in construction cost has?
So both of the project budget, the engineering estimates have inflator built in. And they all built to July 1 assumed start day. So, again, we really don't know if it's going to cost more or less. But if it's 730,000 more, then we'll need to see if we have more real estate excise tax, for example, that's capital funding source, or other ways we can finance it.
Okay, and would one of the other options be that we could take a look at go back to the design again and have the design reconfigured to stay within our budget?
So that's definitely a possibility, and actually throughout the design process, the architect team does value engineering, and see what are the elements may not be as essential to the functionality of the library. But a couple of their suggestions, we believe will decrease the quality of the library, like the building height. We don't think those are the value engineering we want to accept at this time, not at this time at least.
Right, and that goes back to my original concern as to how much weight are we putting into the recommendations from the Robinson company in terms of, the recommendations that they're making in terms of what they believe the cost estimate should be as compared to Miller Hall's this.
So the value engineering is actually happening independent to the Robinson Company's estimate.
Okay.
Both library went through value engineering. Both of them has certain things that they think is not going to impact quality. But again, they do check with us and see, we think we're very tight in this budget. Do you want to look at these changes or not? And so the city definitely has a very strong voice in terms of how the end product will look like.
Okay, good. I also like the idea that the Robinson Group saw a need to include a couple of line items for community engagement throughout the project, or during, was that previous slide where I saw, I think about 15,000 was and those were a couple of items that KCLS didn't have in their budget.
Well, actually, THA, because they have not.
Public process and
Right.
KCLS envelope coordination.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they have not worked at that time with King County Library System before, I think they actually underestimated a lot of the budget. From what I understand is they think they are, at this point, they already spent $120,000 more in this project than they allotted time for. But because it's fixed fee service, they're not going to get more. It's just they would need to eat them.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Randy.
Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Taylor's questions. And I also want to say I really appreciate a comment you made about as we look to the value engineering to stay within the budget. I really appreciate that that you won't necessarily compromise on something like ceiling heights, something that's permanent. Once we do that, it's hard to change. Particularly when you consider, I can't remember what the numbers were, but we're paying like $5 million a year to service these libraries, so we want them to be really nice. And I think of how generous this community's been with the school construction, hundreds of millions of dollars for new schools, and for those of us that aren't going to school in this community that are, I think we ought to make sure we come up with nice libraries. So I really appreciate personally the review. It's reassuring for me. I mean, we've got a little bit of difference, but we're not way out. It is interesting that the bigger difference is the Highlands one, but my view is we ought to find a way to cover if that materializes and we do have an overrun, find a way to cover it. Look for any obvious opportunities to save money, but mostly just look for an opportunity to cover it. We have a nice product when we're done.
Right, I just want to add one more comment in terms of Highlands Library. Because the scope initially was so different,
Yeah.
we were not required to do any utilities or road improvements when we went
I
into
see.
the project. And now, because we're building our site independently, those
I
pieces
see.
are going to come in.
I see. That's going to be a really marquee project there in the Highlands. People are going to be really excited about it when they see it shaping up. Thanks.
Okay, if no further questions, that's all
I
I
don't
have.
see any further questions, so you're off the hot seat.
Well done.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
And next up, it must be Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of council. If you give me just a minute, I'll get my presentation going.
Well, we'll wait all day for you because you always bring us good news.
No pressure.
No pressure.
He's like, then I better get going right away.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. My house is on this slide thing. Speak slow, because we are.
Well, Mr. President, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening and talk a little bit about some of the new happenings here in Renton. I know that Mayor Law, just a couple of weeks ago, shared with you some of this material, but I've included some new information in this presentation as well. Just like to start off and talk a little bit about residential construction in the community. And when it comes to single-family residential here in Renton, we continue to do about 25 to 30 new units for building permits each month now. And we expect that 2014 is going to continue at this brisk pace. So residential construction is definitely moving forward. A particular area of multifamily construction that we're seeing a lot of right now is senior housing projects. And I wanted to bring some of these to your attention here today. Vantage Point is a 4-story, 77-unit senior assisted living facility that's being developed by the King County Housing Authority. The site is located to the west of 108th Avenue Southeast, which is a principal arterial, and fronts onto 105th and 180th. So this is up near the Fred Meyer, Benson and Carr area, sits behind there. There's, again, a number of commercial areas surround this particular development, as well as some single-family manufactured homes and community center, basically right across the street from the fire station as well. Another new senior project is a 5-story mixed-use building consisting of 219 units of senior apartments and 4,500 square feet of commercial space. And this is going near the other Fred Meyer off Rainier, former school district property there. If folks know where that is.
Mr. Chair? So, you're speaking of that vacant lot right next to at the south end of Fred Meyer to Renton City.
Correct. The railroad tracks runs right to the south of it. It's that vacant parcel right there. So that's the location for that.
Okay, when is that scheduled to begin construction?
I honestly don't know where we are in the permit process on there. It has been through its pre-application process and working its way. And I don't know, Chip, if you know if we have any further permits.
They actually have approved entitlements, but they haven't applied for building permits yet.
And who's doing that project again?
That project, I actually don't know the name of the developer on that.
Private?
Chip, do you know?
No.
Yeah, I believe it's a private project, yes.
Okay, that's retail on the ground floor?
Yes.
And that's not assisted living?
No. This is independent, senior independent living. 219 units of that.
Wow, nice. Yeah, looks nice.
That helps.
Yeah, yeah, we went over that part really fast.
The good stuff.
I think I went through there. I didn't know that they were bulleted
Yeah.
as I clicked, so I apologize for that. This rendering, I apologize for the quality. I did not have a better or full color rendering to share with you, but this is a new proposal on the west side of Rainier Avenue North, near the Renton Municipal Airport. And the proposal here is to construct a 5-story, 144-unit senior independent living project.
Approximately where is that? Is that,
Right straight, directly west of the tower. So you can pay extra, you can get that beacon to go right through your window at night on that third floor.
Okay, so that's just past the feeding,
Exactly, Councilman. Right next door, there's 2 lots right next door to the emergency feeding area, and that's
We'll look hard at this one.
that's where this particular proposal is. But I just thought it was is interesting to see the number of senior projects that have come through, and wanted to bring that to the attention of
boomers. Lots of boomers.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of retail, I think you are familiar with many of these projects, but new retail development continues to come to Renton as well. As you know, the Landing has hit its 90% occupancy mark and looks to add new tenants still. This particular slide here shows the CVS drugstore that's currently under construction at the corner of Benson and Carr. This is CVS's very first entrance into the Seattle market, and I think this is going to be a very attractive facility, and certainly if you've been by and seen the steel that's being erected right now, you can tell that it's going to change the appearance of that corner dramatically. The previous development set so far below the corner, and this is going to be raised up to street height, so I think it's going to have a much larger impact on that particular corner.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Do we have any transportation projects that are being considered in that location to mitigate what we know is going to become a very robust area in terms of traffic? I see Chip.
Please, Chip.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, for the record, Chip Vincent. Yeah, this was one of the biggest issues with respect to this project, is because we have the planned expansion of Carr Road coming up the hill, as well as Benson. So we needed to work really closely with the prospective developer to ensure we've got the necessary right-of-way dedication and building placement in order to be able to make the physical improvements to the Carr Road expansion when it does happen. So this is probably one of the most challenging aspects of this project, because it was actually a significant right-of-way dedication that occurred as part of this development. What we offered up in exchange was that the developer, while they provided the right-of-way dedication for the city to complement the full improvements necessary, we did not require that they make the physical improvements within the right-of-way. So for instance, the existing landscape area, the existing sidewalk will remain as they are today until such time as we actually expand Carr Road, and at that time, we'll make all those physical improvements in the right-of-way.
So for the folks that are at home that are wondering what this is all about, essentially what's happening is that we, the city, dedicated, some property, or actually CVS dedicated property to us. And we didn't require that they mitigate improvements, along that area, because what we're going to do is use that land for expansion of our road project somewhere down the road.
Exactly.
Simple, okay.
And just as a editorial comment on that, I drove by there yesterday, I think it was, and it looks like TVS is filling the dedicated property, so it'll be level with the roadway, which shows, so you're not going to have this big drop off.
Very nice.
Good.
I will share on this point, one of the lessons learned for us with the Rainier Avenue project, it doesn't necessarily matter if it does matter if we get the right-of-way dedication as part of the project, but the most important part is to get the building placement in the right location, so that if we can't get the right-of-way dedication as part of the project development, at least when we go back to acquire it later, we're not acquiring a lot that has physical improvements on top of it.
Right.
One last question. Any idea how many jobs that's going to bring to our city? And do they have a plan to try and hire local labor force?
Mr. President and Councilman Taylor, I don't have that particular information on the number of employees, but as this is CVS's first entrance into the community, this is a brand-new project. They will hire all brand-new employees. I would assume the majority of those would be from right here in Renton and the local area. So
I know you don't have the numbers right now, but I'd be curious to know what that number is.
if I can find that, Councilman, I will share that information with you.
Thank you.
Right next door to that project on the same development is going to be a brand-new McDonald's restaurant, which is part of that is ad as well.
Cliff?
Go back.
Does that mean they're going to they'll be closing the other McDonald's?
Mr. President, I don't have any concrete answers to that. My estimation would be, since there's a McDonald's on Benson right now, that this will be a replacement for that one because they are so close in
I'd
proximity
be
right
shocked,
now.
considering there's the one in Fairwood, there's that one, and I don't think McDonald's can do that much business in one concentrated area. I'd be shocked if they didn't close the one on Benson Avenue down.
Can you go back to that McDonald's picture?
No.
I was just noticing it has our swoosh ahead of the curve up there on the top. I'm sure they did it just
It must have been a required design feature that we,
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, no more golden arches. We're ahead of the curve here.
I think the McDonald's on Rainier Avenue has our swoosh too. They've-
Yep.
That's the company has adopted our swoosh. Should have trademarked it.
Yep. should've.
Just a note that the Taco Time that's on 4th in the Highlands is going to be raised and rebuilt with a new modern prototype store here, so that's kind of exciting. Since Taco Time is a local company, we're excited to see them continue to invest in the community. Again, back to the question of replacement fast food. Wendy's is going to build a new facility on Carr Road, right where the former Sherry's restaurant was. And again, I believe that since that one is so close to the one on Benson, that this is a likely replacement for that store, but I can't verify that for sure. In terms of automotive projects, you know, with the reconstruction of Rainier Boulevard, we've seen several changes and additions to our automotive dealerships. Walker Subaru relocated its new car facility to the former Saturn dealership on Grady Way and remodeled its former location on Rainier for its used car sales, and then sold its former used car location to another auto dealer. And then CarPros expanded onto Rainier with its new Hyundai facility as well. So we've seen a lot of changes there, as well as this particular new structure, and this is the Washington State Auto Dealers Association headquarters on Rainier Way, or excuse me, on Grady Way. I think it's a beautiful new facility, and we're glad to see the association here in Renton. CarMax continues to work to build a very large new facility here in town as well, located at the former Regal Cinema site near IKEA and Highway 167. The company continues to negotiate access agreements and continue to work on development plans for that particular site.
Are they expected to be able to repurpose a lot of that building? Is that how, or does the whole building have to come down, or?
Mr. President, Council Member Corman, my understanding is that the existing building will be scraped flat and a new dealership building to their specification will be
Okay.
constructed in its place.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about mixed-use projects. Obviously, we're excited to see the project move forward at 2nd in Main. This is an updated new rendering that we just received. The project is being called the Renton Heritage Apartments. 134,000 square foot facility at 2nd and Main with 101 residential units on top of parking and retail space.
That'll be good for downtown.
So, very nice investment in downtown. We're anxious to see this one move forward. This is just a rendering of a project done by the architectural team that is working to put a mixed-use project on the vacant parcel on 3rd Street, just across from Safeway. If you're familiar with where that...
behind Freddy's there.
Yep, with where that lot is. They had their initial pre-application meeting just last week, still working on plans, but it will be a mixed-use development with residential over commercial space.
Nice.
Nice.
This is a new project that came in here recently in the Highlands on the corner of 4th Street and Whitman Court northeast. We have a proposal in to build a new Washington Federal Bank. And the interesting part of this project is it will have somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 townhomes constructed as part of that development with it as well on 4th. So
Where is this?
it's on 4th and Whitman Court northeast,
Post office.
near the post
Oh,
office.
that vacant.
The vacant lot there for the post office.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
Whitworth. Okay, I was trying to figure
Right, I
out.
couldn't think of it either, yeah. Okay.
Just a quick update on manufacturing. This certainly is not news to the council, but I think it's worth noting that Boeing's recent increase in rate to 42 planes a month that's a 10% boost in output at Boeing's Renton facility, and with the lengthy backlog of 737 orders and strong pre-sales of next year's 737 MAX, we're expected to see many years of steady work at the site. So we're very excited about that, and we're also excited about the Central Sound Aerospace Training Center that the state has funded. That's going to support our aerospace industry that is in the planning stages right now to be located at our own Renton Municipal Airport.
Yeah, Cliff, just kind of, again, editorial comment. Several of us had the opportunity to watch the rollout of the 737, it's the 42nd one that built in a month's period of time. And driving through the plant, it was amazing. I mean, they had flagmen in 2 different areas flagging traffic to get people in and out, construction, and there was three major construction projects going on there to make it so they can do the MAX. And it was very interesting that they were telling us that their wing assembly people, and I don't understand this, but came up with a tooling to drill the holes in the wing more accurately and where they're supposed to be. And I think they were telling us on the way back that there's 5 or 7 patents that Boeing's got for that, and it's going to make it possible to increase the production rate, but also it sounds like they're going to be able to sell this machine with their patents. So it was very an interesting, and man, they're spending some bucks down there, let me tell you. We like that.
A lot of construction.
Mr. President, we're also working with McCallum Print Group to consolidate its headquarters and regional operations to a new state-of-the-art facility at the Long Acres Business Park. And this high-tech printing operation will bring over 200 well-paid new jobs to Renton. So we're excited to work with this manufacturing operation and get those new jobs to the community. As you know, we've seen a number of lodging projects pop up here recently, many in development. I think council is certainly familiar with Michael Christ's plan to build a 350-room, 12-story, 4-star hotel at the Southport development. And many of us also had the opportunity to attend a reception they're celebrating the Seattle Family Regional Center designation that Mr. Christ received. That is a designation that allows foreign direct investment, some preferential status for investment in the area. And it's quite a coup for the company to have secured that, and we're glad to have that in Renton, and it's going to be a great tool to help finance that project for Mr. Christ. And of course, many of you are familiar too, at a small site across the street from Jean Coulon Park, a Hampton Inn and Suites has been proposed. It's a 125-room guest hotel that's currently designed to be 6 stories in height and have a separate parking structure. We continue to work with that project and its developer to refine the project and to see if it's possible to fit on that small and very constrained site there.
I can't believe it.
An interesting project that we've discussed in the past is called Spa Castle. Spa Castle is looking at doing a very high-end luxury spa on Lake Washington Boulevard in the same proximate area, as well as a small boutique hotel which is associated with that. This group has constructed similar projects in upstate New York, in Manhattan, and in Texas as well. And then this is a rendering of a 5-story, 141-room Residence Inn hotel, which is looking to be constructed near the Triton Towers site along Interstate 405.
That's where you keep them.
So continues to show additional strong demand for lodging in our area.
Gary.
And just very quickly to end up here, just talk about a number of the exciting redevelopment projects at Sunset Highlands. I know council follows this very carefully and is familiar with the master plan here for the redeveloped Sunset Terrace area. And I'm sure many of you have probably seen the demolition in progress for Sunset Terrace Phase 1. So much of that has been scraped and cleaned and removed at this point. Good news here last week, Renton Housing Authority has received its draft approval from HUD for the demolition of Sunset Terrace Phase 2. So that hopefully when that gets signed and moved forward here shortly, they can move forward with resident relocation that's planned and begin the demolition and site preparation for that particular phase of the project as well. And of course, I think Ewan gave a great update on the library. This is the Kirkland Avenue Townhomes project that we're excited to see because this particular project in the area will be constructed with modular construction techniques, and we're anxious to see how this will work. In fact, there has been a tour put together by Renton Housing Authority, and several folks from here in the community are going to be making a visit to the factory where these particular units are constructed so that we can check and see if this is something that we may want in the community for future projects.
Where is that facility where they're constructed?
Actually, it's constructed in Weiser, Idaho, just not too far from where I'm from.
Right, where Jay Covington's from, huh?
Other side of the state. Yeah. Well, with that, Mr. President, members, council, I would certainly stand for any questions.
Mr. Chair?
Greg?
Yes, this is fantastic. It's wonderful. You know, I think and I see all of these wonderful projects, and I think of the rising tide. It lifts all boats, but we have to be careful that in that process it doesn't sink all rafts and drowns all those who are treading water. So with that, what I would think is that this could be a fantastic opportunity as we move forward. We realize that we are very, very well positioned. We've got a lot of attention that is showing up, wanting to do business here, some form or fashion. That's fantastic. I think that gives us as council members the opportunity to think in terms of leveraging that desirability. And I have mentioned it on more than one occasion about community benefit agreements. What I would hate to see happen is that we begin to develop a workforce of people that don't live here, and that we displace a number of people who do live here. And I may remind my colleagues that our city has had an 89% increase in poverty in the last decade. And so I am for holding businesses accountable to some measure of hiring locally, okay, trying to increase our economic development and prowess. And ironically, you know, we just had this conversation several weeks ago about dwindling resources and options on how we can raise revenue. And if we would focus on a very strong, a strategy of utilizing and leveraging some of these economic development projects that are coming our way to get people living here, working. Those are the people that are going to be paying taxes, and they, paying utility taxes. They're going to be buying homes. They're going to be spending their money here because they live here. And so I would challenge our council president to put the conversation on the agenda at some point in time so that we can have a discussion about community benefit agreements, living wage ordinances, those types of things that are happening in other parts of the country and even locally here. And our neighboring city, they're talking about some of these types of things. I think that really can help us to leverage, in a balanced way, all of these great opportunities that are happening for us right now. I think you guys are doing a great job. That's fantastic. From stem to stern, we've got a number of different exciting projects coming our way. The question is, are those projects going to make it difficult for some people not to be able to live in our city because they can't work, they can't afford housing, and that conversation about affordable housing comes back to harm us again also. So,
Thank you, Cliff.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And with that, Committee of the Whole is adjourned.